Steve McCurry is with us this morning. He's a National Geographic photographer, and he's recently completed an assignment where he had the last roll of Kodachrome film that came off the manufacturing line. He had to decide what he was going to do with that 36 exposures. And we're talking this morning about some of the decisions that he made about what to take, where he went. And if you'd like to join the conversation, 800-242-2828. If you're in the Twin Cities, 651-227-6000. If you're online this morning, mprnewsq.org. Steve, this is something that I was going to put out to our audience, and I'm going to be curious to hear what they would say. If you in our audience, and I don't care if you're an amateur photographer or a pro, if you had that last roll of Kodachrome film in your camera, do you know what you'd shoot? Would it be difficult to figure it out, or do you know precisely the place you'd go to get those last 36 shots? 651-227-6000, 800-242-2828. Here's an interesting email, Steve, from Steve in Arden Hills, who says, did you ever think of taking a picture of all of the newly unemployed Kodak workers at the end of the final production run? I think that's a fair question.
Actually, that's a brilliant idea. I wish he would have let me know, I wish I had known that earlier. I'm not sure that Kodak would have necessarily been, thrilled in organizing that, but I'm sure that those employees. I mean, I saw a thought or a suggestion some time ago of somebody wanted to revive Kodachrome and get the chemistry and the machines and try and recreate it or reintroduce it. But it was such a complicated, difficult film to make that I think that would be pretty much impossible.
To the phones to Tim in Minneapolis. Hi, Tim.
Hi. I'm a big lover of film, and I'm really kind of sorry to see black and white photography even going out the window. And I really love manual cameras. I was curious on what he is using to shoot this last roll of film. Is he using like an older camera from that generation, or is he using a more modern SLR autofocus camera?
Steve?
It was an F6. It was a Nikon F6. I had used, FM2s and some of the 8008 and the N90 and all these different Nikon cameras. But for the last roll, I decided to use this F6. Presently, I use the DX the DX Nikon, which one of the amazing things about digital photography is the how low the light can be, and you can actually photograph an extremely low light. And I've always loved photographing in dark situations, whether it's a market or inside of a temple or a church or a mosque or maybe a jazz club or in somebody's home or in that's where I enjoyed doing most of my work. And to be able to shoot handheld in very, very low light is just just fabulous.
I think your decision to shoot Robert De Niro with one of these, with some of these last photos of Kodachrome film is interesting because he has been photographed so many times before. How did you know or believe you were going to get something truly new from that portrait?
Well, I knew that he was interested in photography, and he's a native New Yorker. I figured that he would be a great person to approach and to photograph him actually in his office and in his studio in a projection room down in Tribeca. I guess I'll let the audience evaluate if they think I got anything particularly interesting. But I was pleased. I thought the experience of meeting him and photographing him, even apart from the picture, was great. I think the joy of photography, perhaps even as a whole, I mean, most of the joy is just the experience of being in that particular place and meeting those people or being in that particular event. The photograph you make is sort of a bonus, but to actually be in all these amazing places that our work allows us to be in is truly remarkable.
But Steve, I mean, again, knowing that you wanted photographs, from this last roll of Kodachrome that would kind of, that would be in some ways a legacy of the film that you love. I've got to imagine you go to a shoot like that with De Niro and you think, I want something special out of this. And I'm asking, he's been photographed a whole lot. How do you know you're really going to get something special from it?
Well, I always want to photograph. I mean, every time I lift up my camera, I want to do something, push the boundaries and do something great and make wonderful pictures. So I didn't really treat, I went there photographing him the same way I would probably photograph him in another situation, just trying to do the best I could and come up with the best, create the best situation to make the best picture. I literally made this, photographed this role the same way I would work in any other situation. The only difference was I only had one exposure. If I was going to photograph him otherwise, I might make 50 or 100 or maybe 200 exposures, and kind of work through the process of discovering and finding that right moment. In this situation, I just had, and of course with Kodachrome, you had the exposure is so exact, you can't be off more than maybe a quarter of a stop. It's only ASA 64, so you need a lot of light or need a tripod and have people sit very still. So that was, I don't really light my subjects. Everything I do is always available light. So photographing him inside required an extremely slow shutter speed. Which is another challenge in itself. So, and I hadn't really experienced that for some time, because now with being able to use ISO of 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 is kind of routine.
I'm asking our listeners this morning as we continue our conversation with Steve McCurry about his experience of using the last produced roll of Kodachrome film. If you and our audience had that, what would you shoot? Do you know right away? Would you really have to think about the precious images that you would capture with those last 36 shots? 800-242-2828, 651-227-6000. And if you're streaming us today, mprnewsq.org. Greg in Edina asks, with the death of film, slides, and printing of digital pictures, do you think we started a gigantic hole in our history starting in about 1999?
Well, a lot of the problem with digital photography is storage, and people put their pictures on their computer or on a hard drive and put it on the shelf. I recently found some Kodachrome slides that had been kind of inadvertently left in a storage unit for, 25 years. And I was astonished at how great the color still was,
really?
Despite the fact that it was in the heat of the summer and the cold of the winter, but the pictures were still viewable and they were still intact. Whereas if I had had a hard drive left in a storage unit and came back for that 25 years ago, could we find a way to actually, the hard drive might be obsolete.
Yeah.
I mean, no doubt that the pictures would be ruined. So I think that the caller is absolutely right. I think that people keep these pictures on their on the computer and they'll disappear. Who prints pictures anymore? I mean, in the old days, we all had prints, and nobody prints pictures now. They're all emailed around or, on your iPhone or whatever. I think it's a huge, and the storage is one of the trickiest and most difficult things I've found in my photography, of trying to keep everything organized, because the pictures don't really exist the way they did in negatives and transparencies. They're, like I said, in a hard drive somewhere. And Um, they're just, and unless you keep backing them up, DVDs and hard drives, that those DVDs degrade, and after, I don't know, 5, 6 years, uh, I think they're maybe irretrievable, or at least after maybe a decade.
Let me take a call here from Tom in Minneapolis. Hi, Tom.
Hi. I love Kodachrome, and I really support the notion of the longevity. I documented the birth of our 3 kids by taking close-up shots of their hands wrapped around the finger of my wife, the bottom of their feet within basically 24 hours of their birth. And we have a collage on our wall, and our wedding pictures that are in that collage have totally faded away, but these pictures are just incredibly vivid. You can see the scales on the bottom of their feet from coming, just being born. It's just amazing with the detail and detail of the head and the hair. It's just the photographs are just incredible, and they still look perfect today. And our son's 35 years old.
So they've been around a while.
Yes, they have.
Steve, exactly what you were just saying.
Well, there are a lot of pictures, Kodachrome transparencies from the 50s and 1940s, which still retain their brilliance and their color rendition. Kodachrome was kind of invented, I would say, back in the 1930s by 2 American musicians, and ever since it just really took over. For decades, this was the film at National Geographic. Everybody used Kodachrome 2, and then there was Kodachrome 25 and Kodachrome 200 and Kodachrome 64, and you would go out, and there was Kodachrome 160. There was tungsten, balance for daylight. There were, you'd go out with 300-400 rolls of film in your luggage, and that's what you would shoot your whole assignment on. And you would maybe you'd be out in the field for a month or 2, and you'd be shooting without really knowing what you were getting. You were shooting and shipping the film back, and you'd get these reports back from film review from one of the departments of National Geographic, and they would give you an indication of how your cameras were working and how the exposures were, and then your picture editor would give you a sense of what was working subject-wise and what wasn't. And now, with digital photography, you can see, of course, you can see the picture instantly, and at night, back in your hotel room or wherever you're staying, you can actually edit these pictures and evaluate how you're doing and look at the light, the composition.
Steve, does the fact that you've got that instantaneous ability to assess the quality of the film, I know that's got to be an advantage in some ways, but it does take some of the mystery and the suspense out of the work, doesn't it?
Absolutely. But if I had a choice, I would much rather see what I was doing right then as I'm shooting it.
I see why, but I can also imagine you're out in the field, as you say, for a couple months. You've shot some of what you think is great stuff, and the photo editor calls up and says, "These are magnificent," and you have that experience of, of that rush of excitement again about the quality of what you've shot.